I'm doing your great work and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop so I can come down to you? That is a great work from 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, as discussed in the Bible and the book of Nehemiah. Let's discuss how this continues to affect the region and the U.S. and national security today here on the Great Work Podcast. Welcome back to the Great Work Podcast, and today we're doing something a little different. I got a lot of feedback saying that you guys wanted like a daily political show or daily political and Israel show. For a long time, I've done like long form interviews about the status of the Middle East and things like that. I don't want to stop doing that, but I have felt burnt out with the normal topics. I still have the episode on Lebanon coming. I still have all of a couple interviews in the pipeline that I think will be really interesting, mostly centered around the Middle East, but we're going to this week try out the daily podcast thing. This will just be like a short, probably half-hour clip, and see if you guys like it. So if you like this, please comment below, subscribe, rate me 5 stars, all the things. Message me, comment on a TikTok that you like this, because then I'll keep doing it. But we're just going to test this for the week. So I chose a couple topics that have happened over the last few days. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd. We are obviously in the middle of the Biden resignation from the race. We've still not seen him. We are less than 2 weeks out from the Trump assassination attempt. We had the RNC. A lot going on here. So there's a lot and a lot more that's happening. So let's just get into it. Let's start with that assassination attempt, because I saw a poll that's really interesting. 34% of normal mainstream Democrats believe that the shooting was staged. And I don't know the exact percentage, but there's another large percentage of people on the right who believe that it was some sort of like deep state plot, the assassination attempt on President Trump. The Secret Service director did a hearing in front of Congress yesterday, which was terrible, and did not answer or reassure anybody in the country, in my opinion. She was not planning on resigning, which is really shameful, because when you fail at your job, especially in government, you're there to serve the people. If you fail in that capacity, and it was a massive failure, that assassination attempt on the part of the Secret Service, it doesn't matter how much is your fault. If you're the leader, you got to step down. If you oversaw that many mistakes, one mistake is one thing. They oversaw like 5 mistakes in an hour and did not intervene. That's not normal. They allowed a drone to be flown overhead. I was listening to somebody talk about how if you buy a commercial drone post 2014, you can't even make the drone live and fly without downloading the internet and getting the FAA certifications, because if there's a no-fly zone over an event, which that would fall under unequivocally, it shouldn't work. So there's like a bunch of these inconsistencies here. Every 20 minutes leading up to the shooting, there was a failure. People noticed him and didn't do anything about it, the shooter. Michael Pregent lays it out really well in a Twitter thread. Maybe I'll edit it in here. You don't fail that catastrophically and keep your job. So she is resigning, but not without kind of being forced to. But I think what's more important about this is that 34% of Democrats believe it was staged, and then another, again, large percentage of Republicans believe it was set up. This to me just shows like a deteriorating trust of Americans in institutions, which is really problematic and concerning. And both parties politicize that a lot. And we need to get over that. Declining belief in institutions or trust in institutions is a foundational principle of like empire decline. Like if you believe that your vote no longer matters, that your vote can't do anything, that's when people get violent. That would explain January 6th. It would explain the 2020 riots. If we want to stop political violence, we want to stop people leaning on conspiracy. And in order to do that, we need to ensure that there is trust in institutions. And both sides do this, but I would argue that Democrats are worse because they control more institutions. If there's distrust in these systems, we need to do something to satisfy the US psyche on them. We can't just keep politicizing them. Oh, well, Republicans believe that the election was stolen. Okay, the Republican Party is not the first party to make claims about the election, all right? In 2000, it was called stolen, based on ballots in Florida. Al Gore said he won the election. Stacey Abrams has said that she has never conceded her loss for run for governor of Georgia. After Hillary Clinton lost, she claimed falsely that the Russians hacked the election, implying that they somehow went in and hacked implies that they did something behind the scenes with a computer. They didn't hack in, right? They bought a couple Facebook ads, which anybody who knows anything about like political strategy knows that $5,000 worth of Facebook ads doesn't really move the needle. You know, especially if you saw the ads, those were not doing anything. And that doesn't mean that Russia's completely innocent, like the best people ever. But this distrust in institutions, both sides need to do something to, you know, get the American people back trusting the institutions. And Cheadle's testimony didn't do that. And it's a good thing she resigned, and hopefully somebody else can come take over. And Americans can feel at better hands. And one more thing about this. For the Democrats who believe that the shooting was staged, just please take one look at the guy who did the shooting, that Thomas Crook kid. Look at him one time and look me in the eye sincerely and tell me that Trump would trust him with his life to shoot a bullet that would just clip him. If you look at the video and the 3D models and renderings that they've done, that should not have happened. Like, Trump shouldn't be alive. Like, had he not turned his head in the exact right moment, which you couldn't have timed for, he would not be here. If you saw him videos of the kid on this, I don't think I should call him the kid, the wannabe assassin. If you saw him up on that roof, the sloped roof, he was like super shifty around. He's clearly not a professional. So if you're going to hire an assassin, probably not the guy, because he clearly wasn't well trained. He was clearly nervous. He was clearly shifty. When you're shifting around that much, that, you know, you are more likely to miss the target. But also, he is more than like there's no way if Trump was going to set something like that up. I don't think he would anyways. A guy died. I think it's extremely insensitive to say that that was all a Trump plot, but also probably that is not somebody that Trump would choose for that. Okay, next topic. Some reporting was going around yesterday that Biden is dead. So this comes after Laura Loomer had been reporting that there was a major medical emergency in Las Vegas. Charlie Kirk put something out saying he had multiple sources from Vegas talking about that Democrats, or that Biden, they cleared a roadway. They were going to get him to a medical center, and then they instead brought him onto Air Force One. And if you looked at the videos, I don't know, I've seen the video of him going up the steps of the Air Force One, not wearing a mask, and nobody around him was wearing a mask after Biden said he had COVID. And my takeaway from that is that I didn't think he looked that much more frail and old than he's looked for the last 2 years. So I don't know why people are freaking out so much about that clip. But okay, so these Laura Loomer and Charlie Kirk reports. When we lean on conspiracy as conservatives, this is how we're going to lose. Okay? Like, if everything we come out and say is that Biden's dead and, oh, we have inside sources saying that he's dying, that is what's going to piss off the electorate. The election stolen narrative, they hate. Conspiracy, they hate it. They are, for some reason, more forgiving when Democrats go along with conspiracy. I don't know if that's because they have the mainstream media or what, but like, we cannot do the conspiracy thing. Or if we do, we need to be really, really careful. I just see this as being like a major thing that's going to hurt Republicans. Now, I also think, though, that like there's validity to question what's going on, because it is quite frankly the weirdest thing in the world what has happened here. This is psychotic. I can't believe we've all just moved on. We're like, oh, yep, Kamala's in. I'm sorry. But Biden was for a month persistent that he was going to stay in the race. We heard reporting that he was sick. We also heard reporting that he was very, very upset and angry. And he felt backed into a corner. He knew he was being pushed out and he didn't like that. And then we've also seen reporting that he didn't want to drop out, but he did drop out, right? Via a Twitter PDF. Now, people are saying that it's weird that it's not on presidential lettering. I think, like, I can see why, since it's not an official White House statement, why it wouldn't have the White House lettering on it. I think that makes sense. They're also saying his signature is weird. There's like a line under it, and in his normal signatures, he doesn't put a line under it. And I saw Megyn Kelly say that could mean that a spouse signed it. Like, it's legal for a spouse to sign a spouse's name if you put a line under it. Again, that gets to conspiracy. However, the main thought about Biden for the last month, and actually before that, but really for the last month, is that he's completely unfit to serve. He's not healthy. He can't do this. That's the main thing that people are thinking. And if you're a comms person for the White House or for Biden's campaign, that is the number one narrative you need to combat. And the fact that at all of these junctions, they're leaving vast room for questions is concerning. So either Biden is super sick and like his voice is really shot and he just can't speak. I would argue that's probably not it. I would argue he's probably really mad. We've seen him in some of his speeches. He gets like really angry. We also know that people going through mental decline, like dementia, get really, really angry. There's also been White House like leaked reports where people are scared to bring him reports and they're scared to tell him things that they know he's not going to like to hear. This is the ultimate thing that he clearly doesn't want to hear. I mean, if he's wanted to be president in his entire life and he's just been forced out, he's clearly not going to like that. But I think he's too angry. But also, it's just really strange. Again, like, nobody's seen him. He was on the phone with Kamala yesterday, and she said, "Joe, are you still there on the phone call?" Like, she's tripped up, almost calling it a recording. Again, these are all things that I don't want to go on a conspiracy. I don't think Biden's dead. I don't think that he just had a major medical emergency and he's dying. I don't think that at all. But if you leave all of this room for speculation, that is what people are going to go with the most obvious thing. If Biden could be in front of an audience right now, he would be. It is highly unusual for somebody to drop out in that manner and then not see the public for days. And we hadn't seen him for days prior. That is highly, highly, highly unusual. And people have every right to call that out and question that. And again, I'm not a conspiracy. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's on his deathbed. But the American people deserve answers, because people are going to politicize this. Oh, he has COVID. He's a Washingtonian figure, which also bothers me because he's not Washington. Washington chose not to serve a third term. Biden had to be forced not to run for a second term over a month. So these are not the same. But I was hearing Charles C.W. Cook talk about this, and I think that there might be something to this narrative that Biden is like this great resounding figure who got a ton accomplished. It is true that he got more accomplished in his legislatively. He's one of the most legislatively successful presidents in a long time. He got way more done than Obama or Trump in their first terms, legislation wise. But Biden came in thinking he had some sort of mandate. The election came down to 30,000 votes. If 30,000 votes in swing states had gone the other way, Trump would have been president. Democrats barely won the Senate, and you could argue that had Trump not lost, Georgia, it would have been a 51-49 Republican Senate. And Dems did much worse in the House. Republicans did a lot better in the House in 2020 than Democrats did. Democrats underperformed. Biden came in like he was this like resounding FDR figure, and that's how he's been talked about a lot in the media. He's just the savior of democracy. And that's not who Biden is, right? That's not who he is. He's not a transformational political leader. He's not. And but he's talked about that like that so much. Did he start to believe it? That's what Charles C.W. Cook asserts. And I think that there might be some truth to that. Has he come to the conclusion that he really did like save America? And if you believe that and you're not fully with it, or your decision making is slow and always been slow, but it's getting slower. Well, yeah, of course you're going to question whether or not you're going to leave the race. I mean, of course he is. So I think that there's something there too. I don't know. I mean, it is incredibly strange to me that we've completely shifted who the presidential nominee is within 24 hours. Okay, boom, it's Kamala. We had stuff coming out from AOC the days prior saying that there's no consensus around her. Well, then she's just announced, and we've still not seen him. We've not seen, like, anytime a president passes somewhat significant legislation, they take a picture. We don't even have a picture. Like, again, I'm not even in the position that I'm believing these conspiracies. I'm in the position of what a blunder for the comms department. And there's something weird going on. I just don't know what it is if they're not willing to be forthright with the American people. And what do our adversaries think when they're looking at this? Like, is China going to invade Taiwan? Because they should right now. They should, given what's going on. I don't want China to invade Taiwan, obviously, but like, if you're not sure who's at the helm, that would make sense. And then just the final thing. I mean, a guy with 81 million votes, the primary process was completely snubbed, and we haven't seen a single riot. We haven't seen a single person upset. Like, the person with more votes than any other candidate in U.S. history just drops out. No, like, I mean, we saw it coming, but drops out in a really weird way, and just his successor steps in, and we've still not seen or heard from him. That's very weird to me. And does that just mean that the Dems aren't as fired up as they say they are? And they don't care so much about democracy and about all of these things because they just don't care? Is something else going on here? There's always been reports that the like pro-Palestine rallies and all of these like far left-wing rallies are coordinated in some way by far left like donors and like thinkers, or like these far left kind of like social organizations, and they get activated at different things. They've not seemed to be activated here, so that's interesting too. Two more things. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in the United States. He landed yesterday. He landed at the airport with his wife Sarah, and nobody from the White House greeted them. Now, I've seen some people say that it is not an official state visit, that it would be uncommon for the president or somebody to greet them at the White House. I guess that makes sense. I mean, but also, this is one of our key allies, that this has been planned for a long time. You would think that something would be done. So, like, I remember seeing reporting when Trump went to Saudi Arabia, the Saudis did a whole big thing for when he landed at the airport. But when Biden went, or Obama went, I can't remember, they didn't even meet him at the airport. And that was reported on at the time of like, oh my God, we cannot trust the Saudis. The Saudis are terrible because they didn't. It's just customary to meet a foreign leader with like kind of a lot of like pomp and circumstance. And especially given the status of the Middle East right now, and Israel being our key ally, the optics look weird. Now, pro-Palestinians are taking this as a sign that they are like, that they've won, and that Kamala is going to like end the Gaza war, and she's going to like end the genocide. And that's not what this is. There was reporting that the Netanyahu team had not heard back from the Biden administration about having a meeting, and it was eventually canceled, citing health reasons, but no further date was scheduled. Then it was being reported that Kamala also wouldn't meet with Netanyahu, but she would, and she also wouldn't attend his address to Congress. And Kamala Harris, being the vice president, is the president of the Senate, so she probably should be there. There have been some politicians saying that they won't attend that. And then you also saw some people mad and upset that Bibi signaled that he wanted to meet with President Trump, former President Trump. So just for those who aren't aware, and if you listen to me, you are aware, there's 8 United States citizens being held hostage in the Gaza Strip by Hamas right now, and they've been there since October 7th. Like, we're not fighting in a war to get our hostages back. I'm sure we're like doing stuff behind the scenes, but we kind of act in America like it's not, like they're not there. You would think, I mean, remember when Brittany Griner she wasn't a hostage, but when she was being held by Russia on bullshit kind of charges, like, do you remember how that was talked about? I mean, there were like countdowns on the news of when we would get her back. But now there's 8 people being held for almost 10 months and no mention of it. And then the leader of our top ally who's fighting the war to get their hostages back, including ours, and we just don't even have somebody meeting with him, or it's even a question about whether or not we meet with him. Like, this is really strange. It has come out that Kamala will meet with Bibi, but she's not going to attend the congressional address. And I don't know if this is her posturing to like the 5% of people who Israel-Palestine is their top issue and they are on the Palestinian side. I don't know if that's that. I don't know what that is, but I also think that, I don't think it's weird for Trump to meet with them, given the status of the war and given that Trump knows Bibi, he's met with him before, and given that there's a likelihood of a presidential transition. I don't know, one of our leaders should be meeting with Netanyahu personally here. Now Kamala is, but before that wasn't being reported. I don't know, you got to show a little respect. I mean, he's taking time out of in the middle of a war to come over here. There's been testiness with the administration. And then finally, another report came out that Biden was going to use his last 6 months in office saying that he's going to end the Gaza war and get the hostages back. Well, I mean, what? We haven't even received proof of life from you. Again, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but like, we're worried about your mental cognition and your ability to like do things day to day. How are you going to end the Gaza war? How are you going to end the Gaza war? Plus, reporting based on like U.S. intelligence has come out that Hamas leadership within the Gaza Strip wants to wind down the war. It's Yahya Sinwar that's the holdout, and they've dramatically reduced the number of attacks on Israel per day from from like 5 to 6 attacks per day to like just under 2. And that comes after the assassination of Mohammed Daif, which was confirmed just the other day. So Hamas is in a place where they're actually going to have to lose the war. Like, they might actually have to surrender, give every hostage back, and flee the Gaza Strip. And if they do that, they're going to go to most likely Turkey or Libya or Syria. But I've been seeing Turkey. So if that's the case and they all leave, and the war ends, well, that wouldn't be because Biden negotiates a peace treaty with Hamas where they get to stay in power, or, negotiates on one side. That would be Israel fought to the point where Hamas couldn't fight anymore. And I think we all know where I stand, what I would prefer. I would prefer the second option. And it looks like Israel's in a good place to do that. So I don't know what is with these statements coming out like that Biden's going to try and put an end to the war. It looks like that's already happening, despite his like holding back of Israel. And the final thing, this is kind of a weird one, but I've seen this all over Twitter. There's an Atlantic article that came out that says that the F slur, like the slur referring to the LGBT community, has been tweeted 2.6 million times in the last 3 months. So this, to me, if you've seen my videos I've made lately, this to me is evidence of the vibe shift in the country. I think I said in another tweet I saw that said, it was like a liberal 20-year-old who was saying like, people are saying the R word and just nobody cares anymore. Now, this isn't me saying that I think it's a good thing for people to use foul language and offensive language, because I don't think that. But I think that it's become so normalized. I mean, it's one thing if it's being tweeted at in a derogatory way, but the way I see it, because I see it on my feed, it's just people joking, like saying humor has begun so anti-woke and so just say the offensive thing, and people are generally okay with it. So to me, this is evidence of the vibe shift, and I'm going to keep you updated on this, because to me, this is one of the, if you look at like the messaging of Kamala versus Trump, Kamala's main thing that she's got going is that she ticks every box for progressives and liberals in terms of like how she's like the woke boxes and all of that. Like, she's a woman of color, all these different things. And I personally think it's offensive when people message about that with any candidate when they only bring up like their gender or their race, but that is something that Democrats can be very important for them. That's like Kamala's main thing against Trump. I think that works really well in 2020, right? When everybody was obsessed with that language and stuff. I don't know about now. I don't know if the same people who are joking around tweeting the F slur and the R word are voting for Kamala, right? Or not even voting, are going to be compelled by the kind of lecturing language and narrative of like, you can't say this, you can't do that, you must support this. I don't think that plays the same anymore. I think we've seen a shift, but who knows? I for sure don't know. But those are my thoughts. So if you like this episode, comment on Spotify or on YouTube, or comment on one of my TikToks that you like the daily podcasts, or message me, because I'll keep doing them. But for now, I think we're going to end it, and I'll see you tomorrow. An Excelsior Studios original production.
A Hamilton County woman is facing serious charges, accused of scamming several people out of rental homes.
April 26, 2023 was a normal day for most in the suburbs of Indianapolis, but it was shaping up to be a very bad day for 25-year-old Megan Stoner, who was notified of a warrant out for her arrest.
9 charges for corrupt business influence, fraud, where the loss is between $750,000 and $50,000, and theft.
And unfortunately for Megan, she would not be navigating her newfound legal troubles in private, because a community of hundreds who had been quietly watching her for years was assembling on the internet to discuss their experiences with her, which ranged from bizarre to dangerous to outright criminal, arguably worse than what Megan had been charged with.
Basically what she did was emotionally manipulated and I'll say abused even me for about nearly these 10 years.
And like, she will suck you dry. Any inch you give her, she just takes them out. Like
Google number after Google number. You block the one, she's not done yet. She's going to get that last word.
The second you let her in, she takes over. And I mean, I would wake up to 20, 30, 40 notifications. I mean, she was scrolling back through things from my high school.
He's a dangerous human being.
And the strangest thing of all is, as her case unfolded, she continued to interact with this online community, which she called her haters, which was made up of business owners she had scammed, politicos from throughout the country that she had solicited for donations, a network of evangelical pastors located outside of the United States, a local brigade of moms who had called out her antics in Facebook groups for years, and even a sex shaman ended up coming together to solve crimes that she had not yet been caught for, and were able to catch her after she ran from the police for a month and finally put her in jail. So, how did this self-described political consultant, mental health advocate, teacher, and sexual assault survivor get into this mess in the first place? And how much of her story that she had told of herself on social media for years was actually true? That's what we'll explore here every Thursday on Don't Waste This Fucking Podcast, the story of Megan Stoner.